All right. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're gonna be doing a breakdown recap of UFC 328 in New Jersey. Obviously, an amazing card. Generational, some would say. I wouldn't push it that far, but there were some great fights on this card. Um, and some upsets. Obviously, we'll get to that at the end. But Sean Strickland is our new middleweight champion. Some people might like that, some people might not. It is what it is. We'll get to my reaction to it if you guys haven't already kind of seen some of my content on it. We'll get to my reaction to that and to the co-main event later on, but we're going to start with the early prelims like always. Before I do start this video though, I do want to go ahead and shout out my TikTok. Make sure you guys go over there and follow me on TikTok at CamMMA if you guys don't already. That would be awesome. And yeah, enough of that bullshit. Well, make sure you guys like and subscribe and maybe leave a comment if you want, but you don't have to. Just, a little shout out. But let's get into this first fight of the night here. We have Clayton Carpenter versus Jose Ochoa. Man, Ochoa looked amazing in this fight, honestly. I picked him, so we start one for one. We start one for one. Ochoa looked amazing. I mean, Clayton Carpenter, good job staying out there, I guess. He never really threatened anything. He landed a few clean strikes on Ochoa, but Ochoa is young, so he was kind of looking for a lot of shots that maybe he could have avoided taking some damage. But I mean, it was just kind of, uh, you know, a dismantlement, some would say. But Jose Ochoa looked really good, honestly. This is a good performance. Clayton Carpenter, 3 fight losing streak now. I don't really know what they're gonna do with him. I could see him maybe getting one more fight. I would put him against like someone debuting maybe, or someone else who's like on a bad streak. Because like Jose Ochoa was levels above, and I kind of thought that coming into this fight. So really good win for Jose Ochoa, and I'm looking forward to his next fight. As we move on to Susar Kayev versus Jordan Santos. This was honestly a pretty solid fight. I mean, and Susarkayev, obviously not my favorite fighter in the world. I always say this every time Susarkayev gets brought up. I don't love him as a prospect. I don't think he's all that great. He's one of those guys you kind of just want to lose at some point. But this was a good performance from him for the most part. He lost that first round. Jordan Santos was kind of, finding his shots. Jordan Santos is not really a good striker though. Like if Jordan Santos was a better striker, I could have seen this going a different way. But they're building up Susarkayev, which is fine. He's still just so inexperienced against, pro level. I know they're around similar amount of fights, but still, Jordan Santos isn't no one's hyping up. Isn't someone no one's hyping. You know what I'm saying. But Susarkayev, looks all right at the beginning, but then obviously in Susarkayev faction comes in that third round and gets a finish. He does always seem to heat up late. I had it by decision. He ended up getting like a last minute sub. I'm still taking it because I got Susarkayev right. But it was a decent fight nonetheless. And honestly, I don't know who he's gonna fight next. I really don't. It seems like they're gonna probably still give him another like decently easy opponent in the middleweight division. I don't know if it's really worth trying to skyrocket him yet. I just don't know if he's there yet. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. As we move on to Pat Sabatini, who got the win over William Gomez. I thought that this was a pretty obvious win, 29-28. And I do have to say, like, the commentary, man, like, I've made videos on it before, but this commentary team is just horrendous. I mean, absolutely horrendous. And we'll get into it later because there is just moments in each of these fights where it's like, are they watching the fights? I mean, genuinely, they were mad at Pat Sabatini for grappling the whole first round. And then we're saying that William Gomez should be mad because Pat Sabatini is stealing the fight from him and stealing rounds from him because he's grappling him. Do people not realize what they're watching? This is mixed martial arts. People in the crowd are booing. What did you expect coming into a Pat Sabatini fight? This wasn't going to be a boxing match. This is bad matchmaking, honestly. just Pat Sabatini's just on another level, and he's just was able to grapple him pretty much the whole fight. I gave Gomez the second round because I thought he was able to kind of get off, and then like when they were striking, Gomez definitely looked better. Um, but like 3 for 20 on takedowns doesn't look good, but he was really holding them in the clinch for a long time. Obviously, no submission attempts. But I thought Gomez did fine in the grappling, but it's just like he has to be able to get out of those situations. And we'll talk about fighters that know how to a little bit later. But Pat Sabatini, good win. I think he's on a 4-fight win streak now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 4-fight win streak in the featherweight division. So, I mean, I know he's not super young or anything, but he's on a good streak. So I wonder who they're going to give him next. But yeah, I'm annoyed with how the commentary was and the fans were for this fight, but it is what it is. And that's another one right, by the way. Another one right as we move on to Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. Tulio, man, he looked good in the first round. I'd say he definitely took that first round for sure. And I was a little worried even in the second round because like about halfway through the second round, I was like, man, Tulio was really kind of piecing him up. Like he had hurt him with a jab, I think, and his eye was like his eyelid was all bloodied up. It was a rough look for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Making a lot of noise. Hopefully that didn't fuck up the audio too much. And if it did, I don't give a fuck. Hopefully y'all are still here. But yeah, Roman Kopylov. My computer just made a noise. Oh, okay, it's back. Okay, so enough of that bullshit. Um, so Roman Kopylov, yeah, it was looking rough in the second round. Got busted up in the eyelid, and it was looking rough, man. And I was like, damn, he's really going to drop another fight. And then he just drops Tulio. Tulio kept leaving his chin out there, and he was able to drop him, and it really turned the tides of the fight. I mean, could have finished him. It was really, and he could have finished him multiple times. He knocked him down 3 times, just could not find the finish. But even in the third round, it continued on. He knocked him down 2 times in the third round, and he gets a 29-28 decision victory. And impressive performance. I mean, some people, were really sleeping on Kopylov, and I was able to, lock in and get that one right. I don't, obviously, you guys know I'm not like a great predictor or by any means. I more go with, who I think is going to win, and that's how everyone should do. But I'm not going to hate on anyone for their predictions, so don't hate on me for mine as we move on to the prelim. I mean, this Jan Blachowicz fight versus Bogdan Guskov, man, I wish it would have happened, but obviously the injury. But anyways, as we move on here to Jim Miller versus Jared Flash Gordon, I think it's about time for Jared Flash Gordon. Like he was looked decent at one point of his career, but back to back losses that make you look pretty bad. It's pretty rough, man. And Jim Miller just like looked pretty better, like Jared Gordon was looking decent at first, but then he gives up his neck, and then just like that, the fight's over. It's definitely rough look. Jim Miller gets his 39th win of his career, and he's getting close to 50 fights in the UFC, I think it was. So yeah, that'd be crazy if he got it. And he said he's not done, even though he did break his hand in this fight, which I don't even know like when he would have broke his hand. I mean, he only landed 10 strikes, so that's not great look, but still, I mean, very impressive performance for Jim Miller, man. Very impressive. Nothing else to really say about this. Good guillotine there, and it was a nice one for him. Nice bounce back after a loss. As we move on to this fight, man, this is a fight that I was so excited for. I really kind of thought this should have been on the main card. I feel like they were a little disrespected. Because like King Green and Jeremy Stevens is a good fight, but it didn't really scream main card of a numbered event to me, but it ended up working out. But Joel Alvarez, this will be my first. Wait, hold on. I skipped a fight, bro. My bad. I'll come back to you. Grant Dawson, I had this as well, and I will say I had Jared Flash Gordon winning. That's my first one wrong. Grant Dawson, I had him winning by decision. He just fucking submits him with like 20 seconds left. That was tough for my pick. but it is what it is. Grant Dawson looked honestly a lot better in this fight. He looked actually pretty solid, and I had it 1-1 going into the third, and I had him winning that third round. Up until obviously the submission. Like he outstrikes him, a few more significant strikes as well, and just looked solid on the ground. He got him in a nasty choke that he's got a few other guys in, and he's honestly that was an improved performance out of him. Obviously, Manuel Torres probably just a little bit too high of comp for Grant Dawson, and this will be the first one that I try to match make. I think Grant Dawson versus Benil Dariush. Dariush, I think he's still in the rankings. I have the rankings pulled up over here. I'm gonna check them later on. You know what? Fuck it. I'll check them right now. I don't know if I really want him to be ranked, but yeah, at 14 here, it's a little rough because Torres dropped out the rankings, so I don't know if I would give Grant Dawson a ranked opponent. But just a really good performance for Grant Dawson. His striking looked better. His chin and his toughness was there finally, and I just thought, it would. I thought, I mean, it kind of went the way I thought, but Grant Dawson definitely showed improvement on the feet, and I was not expecting that. So, good job by Grant Dawson. Good win. As we move on to the Joel Alvarez and then the Amislav fight finally. Sorry about teasing it earlier, but yeah, I was going for Joel Alvarez. I just really like Joel Alvarez, and Amislav ends up getting a pretty dominant win. Just so much better on the ground, so much stronger, and it really just kind of was his fight. And he ends up getting the win in the second round. He won the first round pretty easily as well. Takes him down, chokes him out, and that was it. I mean, he's a legit contender. He's already in the top 15. I think he's at 14 right now in the welter. Yep, at 14 in the welterweight division, and I mean, he's got to be fighting up in the rankings after that because he's not all that old. For someone with 31 pro fights, he's only like 32, 31 years old. So, but definitely just such a good performance. Joel Alvarez, I think, could bounce back from this for sure. He's a little bit older than Amislav, but this just isn't a bad loss. Not a bad loss at all for Joel Alvarez, especially if Amislav ends up continuing to climb up the welterweight division, which I think he can. As we move on to the feature prelim of the night, Atiba Gutierrez versus Ozzy Diaz. Yeah, this one went how majority of people expected. Ozzy Diaz is able to survive that first round, but at what cost? Atiba ends up knocking him out in the second. I don't think it was an early stoppage. Like I could see the argument, but I mean, let's be real. Atiba's gonna get to him and finish him with hammer fists anyways. So the ref just had to jump in and in that. There's not really a whole lot to say here. Atiba looked good. He looked a lot better in this fight than his last fight, but it's always tough. He stuffed some takedowns, so that's good to show that he has that kind of game as well. Yeah, he went 0 for 3 on takedowns, and he had good defense. I mean, he only allowed 8 total strikes in 6 minutes 10 seconds of a fight. I mean, that's pretty elite, shown by Atiba. And what's awesome about Atiba is he's called out Izzy after this fight, and it would be a big jump, but it would make a lot of sense. I'd say put that as a fight night main event in Africa and run that. They're both African. It's a passing of the torch. It reminds me of Izzy versus Anderson Silva. Like that would be such a banger, man. And I really hope they do it. And I think they really could. As if Izzy wants to do it, I think that the UFC can put it together in Africa. I think that would be amazing, and it'd be a great way for Atiba to jump into the rankings if he wins. Um, because Izzy's sitting there at number 9 right now. So Atiba, if he wins, that can jump into the top 10, which would be just what the UFC wants. But then if Izzy beats Atiba, it's not really the end of the world. Um, because it's such a big jump. With Joe Pyfer, it was a little different because he had already kind of faced good comp, and then jumps up the rank. He was already ranked, too. So if he lost to that old Izzy, it's like is Joe Pyfer really anything? But Atiba is like, oh, he's young as fuck. I mean, he can definitely bounce back from a loss to Atiba. So, but honestly, I'm leaning Atiba in that fight just based on Izzy's last fight. I'm gonna be honest, but definitely. But I don't, Atiba's a weird one for me. I think he's like a little overrated, but also like, is he rated that high? I don't know. But I think an Izzy fight in Africa, make it a fight night main event, and I think everyone would show up for that. And I do want to talk about Amislav real quick because I forgot to match make him. When you look at this welterweight division, man, it's pretty good. He's right here at 14. He probably stays here, right? I mean, I don't see he can maybe jump over MVP. These numbers are all fucking messed up. UFC needs to do better. But I'd do Amislav versus honestly, give me like a him versus Buckley, you know? Him versus Buckley or him versus like a Euros Medic, Mike Malott, maybe even a Mike Malott would be decent, but I feel like they're gonna try to push Mike Malott. But I'd do him versus Buckley or Malott, honestly. MVP, I don't know, because he's I don't know. I don't know if I do MVP, but yeah, I'd do Emislav versus probably Buckley after that loss, and we'll get to him, unfortunately, as we move on to the main card. King Green. Man, this guy King Green's on a tear. I mean, this guy's on an absolute tear. I don't know what it is about King Green. I don't know what he's been doing differently, but he needs to continue to do it. I mean, seriously, this guy has been one of the more fun fighters to watch. He's so active and, he's putting on great performances. I mean, look at this performance. Outstrikes him on the feet, takes him down, submits him. I mean, he could have beat him any way he wanted. I mean, this was a pitiful performance for Jeremy Stevens. I think he's retired or I don't know. He's gone. He's got to be done now. But King Green's on an absolutely generational run for King Green. 3-fight win streak over, you know, some all right comp, So what I would do next with King Green, hear me out. Terrence McKinney. That would be a great fight because that's just would just be an amazing fight. Honestly, that would just be an actual generational fight. Put it on the main card of a fight night. Put it on the featured prelim of a numbered event. Like that would just be a generational fight, especially with the Street King Greens on. And then obviously you guys know how T Rex fights. I mean, that would be a generational fight. I would love every part of that fight, and I think that's what the UFC should do next. As we get on to Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley, this fight's tough, man. I mean, I gave it a 30-25 on my scorecards. Two of the judges also gave it that. Sean Brady absolutely destroyed Joaquin Buckley here, absolutely demolished him. And I had Joaquin Buckley as my pick, and I'm going to get a few wrong here on the main card. I'll tell you that right now. Just pitiful performance for Joaquin Buckley. Even when he was on the feet, he didn't even look good. That's what's weird. And there was so much controversy with the betting odds in this fight. Like they switched the day of the fight. Like Joaquin Buckley was a decent sized dog, and then he was a huge favorite an hour later. And yeah, I mean, he got just absolutely destroyed. I mean, Sean Brady landed 245 strikes. I mean, now those were on the ground. I mean, those were mainly on the ground. He was just landing so much on the ground. All of that, it's just getting him down so easily. He did him worse than Usman. Did him way worse, honestly. This is just such a bad performance for Buckley. And like I said, so if I'm matchmaking Buckley, I'm not get see, I've seen some people say Buckley versus JDM, and that's just a bad matchup because why are we rewarding Joaquin Buckley for getting 30-25 and giving him number 4 in the division? Like that's ridiculous. We need to be seeing Joaquin Buckley versus a Mike Malott or Joaquin Buckley versus Egros Medic or Amislav, like I said. One of those guys that are moving up because I think Leon Edwards is going to fight D-Rod on International Fight Week. I think that's a fight that's already kind of been confirmed. At least that's what D-Rod said. But yeah, I don't know what Joaquin Buckley was doing in that fight. That was just I don't know what he spent the whole year off training for, but that was a piss poor performance. And then for Sean Brady, who's sitting at 6 right now and is probably going to stay there, I don't see him jumping over Bilal or any of these guys with that win. He should be fighting JDM. And I know what you're saying. We've seen JDM against a wrestler and it didn't go well, but we just seen him against a striker and it didn't go well. So it's like you you just have to put him up there against JDM. I think Sean Brady versus JDM would be a great fight, honestly. It'd be a good fight. I think JDM has better takedown defense than Joaquin Buckley, and I think he can try to keep it on the feet. And honestly, because he's just more defensive, right? And this would be a good fight because Sean Brady now coming off of a win, trying to work himself back up to the title picture. And if he can beat JDM, a former champion, there he is. He's right back in it. And if JDM can, finally bounce back and beat Sean Brady, then he's still in it as well. So he's not moving too far down the rankings. Um, he's gonna be, and I think he'll take some time off. And Sean Brady, it wouldn't surprise me if he tried to turn around and fight on the Philly card. So I don't know who he would fight in that case, but maybe Michael. No, he just fought Michael Morales. What am I even talking about? But yeah, maybe Protest if he wanted a quick turnaround could fight Sean Brady on that Philly card, the same card that Ian Gary and Islam's gonna fight on. But there's really no point in doing that fight whenever you can just do JDM and Sean Brady and have Carlos Protest wait. But also, or we could have Carlos Protest versus Morales on that card too. So I don't know. It's a crazy welterweight division because every time I say something, I'm like, damn, wait, hold on, because there's so many levels to this division and what's going on right now. But I'm just kind of talking circles around it. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much different shit they can do with that division. But such a great win for Sean Brady. I want to see him against JDM. Period. As we move on to this heavyweight fight, this is tough. I picked Waldo in this one and he ends up losing. And I thought he lost the fight as well. I've seen some people saying this is a robbery. I don't know. I mean, one of the judges gave it 30-27. I definitely don't see that. Waldo definitely won at least that third round, in my opinion. That's the round I gave him at least. But even then, Volkov was just looked a little bit better on the feet, landed more strikes, and was beating up that leg, doing more damage. I thought Waldo was kind of throwing crazy. It's just hard with how tall Volkov is sometimes. But I mean, I don't know. When I talk about what's next for Volkov, you really only have one real answer because he's already number two in the division. But here's the thing, like, Gon Pereira, winner of that fight's Aspinall. So does Volkov fight the loser of Gon and Pereira? But he's already fought Gon, and it was, controversial. And he's saying he wants the title, so I don't know what he's gonna do, honestly. Volkov versus Hokig doesn't really make a lot of sense, even if Hokig beats Derek Lewis. But that's what I was going to say for Waldo. I think if Josh Hokig beats Derek Lewis, I think you run that Waldo versus Hokig. Even if somehow Josh Hokig lose that fight, I think you still probably run it, honestly. Because I think that'd be a pretty good fight. They're both pretty athletic. And I know Hokig's still a little smaller and faster, probably, but Waldo is one of the more faster heavyweights. He looks so much faster than Volkov, even though he was, 10, 20 pounds heavier on fight day. But yeah, definitely that would be a good fight for Waldo for sure. I think Waldo could really actually beat him too because he more fits Hokig's style. Like you're not going to be able to take Waldo down or um, like he'll be able to trade with you as well and be just as fast, I think. But yeah, for Volkov, I mean, unless you're waiting on the title shot, I don't really know who to give you because it's a little tough with this division. I mean, maybe if Hokic wins, he'd jump all the way up to Volkov, but like, is Volkov taking that fight? Probably not, because he's just winning the title shot. So, but I just don't. It'll be a long time until then, because we have Gon versus Pereira, and then the winner of that's going to probably fight Aspinall, maybe at the end of the year. Um, so then like Volkov wouldn't get a shot until like for a whole year if that's how it ends up going. You know what I mean? But anyways, back to this. Van versus Tyra, probably one of the best fights of the year. I'd say it's definitely up there. Van versus Tyra. So Joshua Van comes out in the first round, gets taken down and controlled for the whole round. And I'm like, man, this is looking amazing for my boy Tyra. If you don't know, I love Tyra. I love Tyra. Easily one of my top favorite fighters. Just love Tyra, man. Love how he fights. Um, just love his whole persona, all that. Van, I also like. I like Van. I like Van a lot. He's a good fighter, good champion, has a decent personality, definitely not a hateable guy at all. And I'm not mad that he won. It's just I'm upset that Tyra lost, if that makes sense. I think Van will be a good champion. This was such a banger too. Like at least Tyra went out like looking good. You know, they finished the fight a little early, but I think Tyra would have in that exchange he would have got finished. And and it came down to that fifth round. And the way that round was looking, Joshua Van was going to take that round anyways. So it really didn't matter that they finished it because it was only a minute 32 in and he was already kind of wobbled and knocked down, obviously. And but yeah, so I gave that first round to Tyra, obviously, but then that second round, like Tyra was looking decent, but then just gets pieced up and dropped. Could have been the end of the fight, honestly. And I don't know how he survived. And then he survived the third round too. I just don't even know how. And then he survived those rounds to come back and win the fourth round. And then going into the fifth, it's tied, and Joshua Van finds the finish finally. But I will say, I mean, Tyra really showed flaws in Van's game. Those calf kicks were really killer. It's just the only reason why he wasn't able to constantly do them is because of the striking of Van, right? So, he's getting jabbed up, and then he's even getting hit with some right hooks, left hooks. He can't really continuously kick that leg because he's taking damage every time. He doesn't move his head. He's not really a good defensive boxer, Tyra. Um, is what I'm talking about. But it was a little tough for him to continuously land those leg kicks, and that's why it eventually didn't work out. And with saying that, like that's why I think if when Van and Pantoja run it back, it's hard for me not to pick Pantoja in that one as of this second. I'm probably gonna ride with Van just strictly off of the fact that he's younger and he's less experienced, yes, but Pantoja coming off of a nasty injury, it's a little hard for me to pick Pantoja. But the thing is about Pantoja that's different from Tyra is I think Pantoja is just better at everything. Like Tyra is just like a lesser version of Pantoja. Like Pantoja can actually strike. Like he has good striking. Tyra's striking is all right. He is all right striking. It's nothing crazy. He's not beating a boxer like Joshua Van on the feet, where Pantoja can actually kind of stand with him a little bit. But then when Pantoja takes Van down, which he will because we've seen Tyra being able to take him down, and I know he couldn't really get into a submission, but see that'll be the difference, right? Because Pantoja is known for his actual submission ground game. Tyra couldn't really ever take the back in this fight, take Van's back. That kind of hurt Tyra a little bit because that's obviously where he's super good at. Every time in full mount, he just wasn't really looking to do any damage, and that was another problem that he had. Van landed an illegal knee in this fight. I don't think it ended up altering the fight at all. Tyra still toughed it out for a few rounds after that knee. Even if the judges would have saw it, I mean, he still got the finish in the fifth. Even if they take a point away, like, yeah, it might have ended in a draw if it went to decision, but um, definitely don't think that that's like a good narrative for the Van haters to be using. I've seen that narrative already. But yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack in this fight. I almost can't even talk about it all. I know I'm missing stuff. Like Van literally almost choked out Tyra. It just didn't look like Van really even knew how to put submissions in almost because he would have one in and Tyra would easily get out. That was a little weird. But I don't know if it's just because of how elite he is on the ground, but yeah, that was definitely like I thought Van was gonna tap him out. It's just he didn't even really look like he wanted to hold the choke in. But like I said, there's literally so much to unpack in this fight. I will say the last thing about Van is he's obviously super young and he still has so much room to develop and grow as a fighter. And if I'm working with Van or trying to find something that Van needs to work on for his next fight, because honestly, his ground game was nice. When he was on his back, he was able to get that butterfly guard up and fight back to his feet. And yes, against someone like Pantoja or like obviously Pantoja is really the only one that is going to be able to use this elite grappling that Tyra has. Pantoja is going to try to find a finish, and he's pretty successful when it comes to ground with to like actually finding finishes on the ground. especially like submissions from almost anywhere. Like that's just something he's so known for. And so that scares me for Van, because Tyra really didn't threaten submissions like at all. But I will say with Van, maybe like it's the one thing that kills me about Van, and I know these are 125ers. I get that 100%, but he has 7 fights, I think, 7 fights with over 100 significant strikes landed, which is like the most by anyone. He's got to be able to finish his fights without landing you know what I mean? He has obviously some finishes in the UFC, but and he ends up finding the finish on Tyra in the fifth round, yes. But Tyra has horrible defense and has no head movement. I mean, Van landed 190 strikes to the body and head of Tyra and could not get him out of there. So maybe it's different against, a little bit more chinny, older fighters like Pantoja. I'm not saying Pantoja's chinny, but you know what I mean. He's a little bit older, not as young. It's weird. There's so like I said, there's so much to unpack in this fight. It was just an amazing fight. I mean, that is what it is. I can make literally a whole hour long video on this fucking fight. Like it just each round would need its own 25-minute video, honestly. But yes, this was a great fight. And I'm honestly, this was fight of the night, almost damn near fight of the year. Um, Definitely a great fight. As we move on to the main event, which I'll try to keep this short and sweet because I went so long on the co-main because that was really it's just my most anticipated fight of the night. Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. I was pretty hyped leading into this fight, obviously. Who wasn't? And I'm not a fan of either of these guys. I would definitely wanted Chimaev to win, just because I don't really love Sean Strickland as a fighter or as a personality wise. But the thing is like I feel like I have to realize, and a lot of you guys have to realize as well, is you know right when they get into the cage, we all like kind of learn that this was all kind of just bullshit. You know what I mean? This whole beef, it turns out that they were just selling the fight, which is fine. Fighters sell fights all the time, and it is what it is. But it's kind of just kind of annoying as a fan whenever I saw that, because the big thing leading into this is like, oh, these two literally want to kill each other. Like, yes, they want to win the fight, but it's more about winning. It's less about winning the fight, more about actually destroying the other person. And like you have all this security. Oh, you guys, they can't even be by each other. Oh, you know what I mean? Like there was so much of that leading into this. It felt like Conor and Khabib. It felt like after this fight they were gonna all break out in a brawl and it would be insane. And it ends up all kind of being fake. And it's tough. Like it definitely took like some anticipation instantly out of the fight for me. Once they touched gloves and they were acting like they were cool, I instantly was like, bro, like this shit is not gonna be all that like we thought. It obviously still going to be a great fight. These are two top tier fighters. This is gonna be a fun fight no matter what. Chimaev, I know he held down DDP, but before that was putting on banger after banger after banger. And Sean Strickland, not the most fun fighter in the world. I don't look forward to all of his fights like I would have a Chimaev, but still goes out there and puts on a pretty good performance for Sean Strickland, right? I mean, and obviously in his last fight, he got a finish over Anthony Hernandez. It's not necessarily the finishes that I don't like about Sean Strickland. It's just, and this is kind of another example of it. Now, this is a little bit better and more. I'm like perfectly okay with this one because it's Chimaev that he beat, but he has so many of these fights in his career where he just jabs up his opponent for the whole fight and has good defense obviously, but it's just boring decision after boring decision, split decision after split decision for Sean Strickland. And it's a little bit like I don't look forward to a Sean Strickland fight, if that makes sense, like I do a Chimaev one. That's why I picked Chimaev. That's why I wanted him to win. That's why it upset me a little bit when Sean Strickland got his hand raised. But I do think Sean Strickland won this fight. I think he won obviously 3 of the rounds. And it was a good performance. In that first round, we kind of thought Chimaev was just going to destroy him on the ground, but then Chimaev just like, looked like shit in the second round and then just decided not to wrestle for the rest of the fight. I think he had one more round where he had good control on the ground that he won. Um, but like every round he decided not to wrestle, he lost. I mean, I think he did a decent amount more damage in some of the rounds, but the volume of Strickland with the jab just it's always going to be a split decision when he's just throwing the jab the whole fight. He never really hurt him too bad. Um, I don't know. I mean, this kind of just upset me a little bit. Chimaev was able to get a decent amount of takedowns and at a good percentage as well, I might add. But this just upsets me, man. It really upsets me. I don't know even know what to think. Like this, the lead up leading into the fight, it was an all right fight. Um, I mean, it was pretty good. I think if it was Sean Strickland versus anyone else, it probably wouldn't have been as good. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. Is Sean Strickland's going to be fighting Imavov next, right? So Sean Strickland versus Imavov 2, and we just in this fight has already happened, right? So, and that's the thing with Sean Strickland is, I mean, he's fought majority of these guys in this division. You know, Chimaev's going to be moving up. I guarantee it. But he's lost to DDP twice. He's already beat Imavov. He's already beat Brendan Allen. Hasn't fought Braulio or Pfeiffer, but he beat Hernandez. RDR is gone. He's beat Izzy. Obviously, he's not getting up for the title anyways. Paulo Costa is gone. There are some decent prospects coming up, but no one crazy that's going to be fighting for the title anytime soon. It's going to be tough to sell Imavov versus Sean Strickland too. I'm going to tell you that right now. A lot of people are going to be riding with Strickland after this, and it does. And people, I will address some of the hate that I've been getting on some of my Sean Strickland content. Honestly, bro, if it makes you feel better to tell me I'm not American for not riding with Sean Strickland, honestly, go fuck yourself. Because just because he's an American fighter doesn't mean I have to like him. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, I'm not a fucking patriot. I never claimed to be. I could give a fuck. I literally could care less where anyone's from. I pick the fighter that I like to watch more, and it's as simple as that. Um, if anything, I have a bias towards Asian fighters. If it wasn't obvious, I love Tyra. I love Horiguchi. I love all of these, big Asian fighters. I always have had a bias. I'm not gonna just ride with Strickland because he's American. If that upsets you, then I don't give a fuck. Honestly, like I can't tell you how many times I've just gotten so much hate because I didn't like Sean Strickland, and I literally claim and I said I didn't like Chimaev either. So I mean, if that's you, then that's you. But this was a good fight, though, I guess. Like I said, it's gonna be tough to sell me Sean Strickland versus Imavov too. But I will say for Chimaev though, it looks the grass is greener in light heavyweight for him. I don't think he made weight at 185. It's crazy that the UFC just decided not to give a fuck, but it'll definitely be a lot better for Chimaev moving up. Honestly though, after that loss, it's kind of going to be hard and like the fake buildup just kills it too. Like I almost don't even want to see either of these guys fight anymore. Um, but Chimaev's going to move up and he'll probably fight like Paulo Costa for the interim belt. I could see that happening or Ankalaev's going to fight Paulo Costa for the interim belt, and then Chimaev fights someone here. I don't know. He's not going to fight Khalil, but because that's like his boy. But I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. And then I do want to talk about the flyweights real quick because obviously Van's going to fight Pantoja. But dude, Tyra, tell me, I have two, well, really three fire ass matchups. But two of them I'm super excited for. So obviously the loser of Cop and Horiguchi is like automatic. So either way, I think that would be a great fight. I would rather see Taira versus Horiguchi and put that bitch in Japan and fuck it, throw it in a ring while you're at it. This would be just such a banger. Taira versus Horiguchi in Japan. They're trying to get UFC back into Japan, and hopefully that would just be a banger main event of a fight night. Even if Horiguchi loses to Cop, I think that would be a banger. And then Tyra versus Loney Kavanaugh, that is an absolute banger. Put that as a fight night main event in Japan or England, but I would rather see it in Japan just because they need to go back there. But yeah, tell me that that's not a banger, bro. Tyra versus Kavanaugh, like another just young matchup of absolute killers. I think Tyra probably does a little bit better against Kavanaugh than he did against Van because Kavanaugh's similar to Van, but I think Tyro just would be able to actually find a finish there, especially if it's a 5 round fight. I don't think Kavanaugh's as slick as Joshua Van is. But yeah, so that'll be my reaction. I did go on a little bit of rant about the co-main event, and obviously, like the main event's a little weird to talk about because it's just, it's just a weird time in the sport now. I feel like it's a little, obviously I'm glad that a lot of people are excited, and I want to be excited too, and I hope. And honestly, bro, Sean Strickland versus Imavov, I'm probably gonna be more riding with Strickland in that because who wants to see Imavov as champion? I don't know, but it's definitely cool to see Sean Strickland's actual personality. I know he says a lot of crazy shit, but like his actual personality is not horrible, you know. I feel like I give him a bad rap a lot of the times, but he does say a lot of crazy stuff. But yeah, that's all I really gotta say on this card, man. And I'm looking forward to next week. Obviously, I've been hyping up this Arnold Allen Melquez Melquizar Costa fight for a while, and they've got some other bangers on here as well. And then obviously I am going to be making content on the MVP card as well, that Netflix card, that Jake Paul promotion, whatever, the Ronda Rousey card. I will be making content on that card as well. So make sure you guys look out for that. And then yeah, so I will see you guys next time. Just make sure you guys subscribe. Sorry for going on a rant about Strickland for any of my Strickland fans out there. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Thanks for watching.